continue to be amazed at how we can have stuff using exactly the same settings as we were previously, and then it just doesn't work the second time. Or the 10th time, It's like, no, we know you've done it exactly this other way, but this time there's an additional button you have to push. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, we're here now. Hello. It's time for Death in the Afternoon.
Yep. Let me just get my chat window aligned. Howdy.
Boy, I hope they can.
And they can.
And I heard. Yep. As I see
Paul
what Paul said.
hear
And
music.
Andrew.
Yep. I think we're both there.
Excellent.
President accounted for.
Okay.
Okay. So, 10 seconds pre-roll. Here we go.
Imaginary line intersected the yoga studio at the far end of the bridge she and Shao were standing on. And they were alone on it.
Death in the Afternoon. 5 ounces sparkling wine, 3/4 ounce absinthe. Pour absinthe into a champagne flute, top glass with sparkling wine. Shao backed away from the rail. We have to move. There's a plane. Sorry, I thought it was moving away, but it is moving closer.
Hello, plane.
Hello.
Let me see where I can start hearing it. I'm going to do a little playback.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to start with Shao backed away from the rails, or I got to pick it up.
That's great. First line, perfect. At least I got the recipe done.
You got through the recipe, and this gives me the opportunity to make sure that my script is working properly, which is currently not. So I just got to switch the little targeting thing. There we go. Doink. Got it.
It's really taking its own sweet time moving away.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, I can still hear it, but I think by the time we actually start rolling, it'll be out clear.
Yep. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Here we go.
It's with sparkling wine.
Shao backed away from the rail. We have to move. He licked his lips, looking from the elevator back toward the...
After lip.
Okay.
Here we go.
He licked his lips.
Looking from the elevator back toward the yoga studio and down.
After studio.
Toward the yoga studio.
And then down the length of the promenade. Shit. God damn it. Maybe if we... Come on. He started to walk back toward the studio, sliding his hand into his pocket as he went. Tesla had a hard time looking away from the scene below. Staff was pushing people back in an uneven circle as someone strung a yellow cleaning tape across the far end of the Earth level. Terran level. Also, yes. Also, I'm just going to make a note about another artifact that I'm not going to fix because it's not a problem. Sliding his hand into his pocket as he went is a piece of body language that he was originally doing because he had a spoofer in his pocket that in an older draft someone had given him, and I was using it to do stuff. A spoofer that he told her about specifically. And apparently I cut the spoofer but did not cut the body language. But that's fine.
That's okay.
Yep. Okay.
Let me just listen. I thought I had a dropout.
You know what? Let me just... While we're paused...
Can we actually take it on that line?
Yeah.
You're going to change it anyway?
No, I figure there are 8 more Earth levels. Ugh.
do a find and replace on those while we're here?
I can't do a find replace, but I can do a hop through. I'll do that on break. Next time we're paused.
Okay. All right. So let's just take it from after come on and just go from there.
Okay.
Because I think it'll be faster than punching back out and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Come on.
He started to walk back toward the studio, sliding his hand into his pocket as he went. Tesla had a hard time looking away from the scene below. Staff was pushing people back in an uneven circle as someone strung a yellow cleaning tape across the far end of the Terran level. On the Martian and lunar levels, people hung.
On the Martian, here we go.
End of the Terran level.
On the Martian and lunar levels, people hung over the edge like gargoyles come to gawk at a tragedy. Shao looked over his shoulder. Doll, we can't stay here. Shouldn't we go down to help? She followed him, still staring at the crowds more than the person on the floor. At the other scenes, they've been using a spoofer. His brow was knit tight with concentration. We need to get back with witnesses so the gap when no one can vouch for us is as small as possible. Also, if they fell from the lunar level, whoever pushed them didn't come this way, so would have had to pass by the entrance to the yoga studio. Tesla's stomach went tight and queasy as the reality caught up with her. There were already 2 bodies on the ship. The chances of this being an accident were slim. There had been no accidents while Shao.
There had been, here we go.
Accident were slim. Accident were slim.
There had been.
Accident were slim.
There had been no accidents while Shao was in custody, and now. She looked again at the people crowded along the balcony rails on the Martian level, where the trajectory could have originated, and took a snap with her subdermal camera. Do we pretend that we did or didn't see it? We're honest, but don't offer information. The more you say, the more apparent contradictions people can find. He cut off as they approached the studio. The class had still spilled.
Let me listen to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're honest, but don't volunteer information. You said offer.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Didn't see it.
We're honest, but don't volunteer information.
Great. Thank you. I'm not going to do that. Okay. So then, pick it up. The class had spilled.
Approached the studio.
The class had spilled out past the curtains, most looking toward the railing. Jalna stood near the front, talking to Ewan, and seemed to be trying to keep them from approaching the rail. Other members of the studio gathered in the entrance.
Other members, here we go.
From approaching the rail.
Other members of the studio.
From approaching the rail.
Other members of the studio gathered in the entrance, looking toward the atrium, but stayed packed in a protective. For fuck's sake.
But stayed. Here we go.
Looking toward the atrium.
Other member. Oh, sorry. Got it. I thought we were starting. I'm fine.
Okay.
Looking toward the atrium.
But stayed packed in a protective cluster around the teen. Jalna glanced over her shoulder and saw Tesla and Shao. Ah, here. Our dear Tesla will have thoughts on these. She caught Tesla's eye and beckoned her closer with a smile that seemed more than a little strained. She is a specialist in robotic enhancements of the human form. Was. Tesla's smile was definitely strained. The Pamu had been a robotic enhancement. This conversation with Jalna would have made her tense enough, but there was a body lying 2 floors below them. But I keep up with the field. The teen's face was flushed red, and they were shifting from foot to foot.
The teens, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up with the field.
The teen's face was flushed red, and they were shifting from foot to foot, as if they wanted to go look at the railing, but also didn't want to miss out on talking robots with Jim Tefani. Plane again?
Okay.
Moving towards us, steadily closer. Closer.
Closer!
I mean, it's a really nice day
pushing.
here. I suppose they could be mowing the grass, but I don't think that's what's going on.
Please no. Let's see here. Let me listen to... Oh. Staff. Let me check one thing. 10:10. 10:10.
10:10.
There was a question whether staff is singular. You saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. So after Jim Tefani, here we go.
With Jim Tefani.
I was just acid interested in octopoids and how their central brains make it easier to translate haptic feedback. So, such as, what do you think about ultrasound transducers versus air vortexes?
So after the such as, I think.
Okay.
Here we go. Except I'm going to cinch up that punch a little bit.
Yeah, I was slow.
Here we go. After such as.
So, such as.
What do you think about ultrasound transducers versus air vortexes? Well, those both still give analog sensations. Ewan's father wasn't with the group. Had she seen Ori Sloopmakers in the room when they'd left? Gimlet, go say hi. The little dog flopped down and rolled over on her back, legs sticking up at undignified angles. Her tail wagged as she gazed up at Ewan with an unabashed plea for belly rubs. Her trainer would complain that all of the people petting her was not good for Gimlet's training, but right now, Tesla needed her as a distraction. Ewan succumbed to the inevitable and bent down to scratch Gimlet's belly. Yes, direct brain... Oh, sorry.
Is that supposed to be Jana or?
Yes, that was me going, who is talking right now? It's Jelna.
Right. Okay, here we go.
Scratch Gimlet's belly.
Yes, direct brain stimulation is better than... And that is why I'm a genius with the robotics. It's you just... And then...
I got that.
Great.
Here we go.
Great.
After belly.
Scratch Gimlet's belly.
Yes, direct brain stimulation is better at translation for non-anthropomorphic figures, although it also has its limitation. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Here we go.
Morphic figures.
Also.
Morphic figures.
Also has its limitations. Over their head, Jalna's face tightened with concern again. She looked out the entrance of the yoga studio toward the bridge. In fact, All of the other members of the yoga class seemed tense except Majabine, whose placid expression was a perfect mask of tranquility. And Annie, who wasn't there. Right! The analog options are usually the most accessible for those who cannot afford direct brain stimulation, which is where the octopoid's central brain comes in handy. Tesla scanned.
Tesla, here we go.
Comes in handy.
Tesla scanned the room, which still had the That was a Titian flute.
Comes in handy.
Tesla scanned the room, which still had the same low, ambient Titian flutes playing, interspersed with the occasional chime. It would not have masked the scream. Some of the yoga mats were askew, as if their occupants had risen quickly. A green running shoe lay on its side near a mat. The vivid magenta and gold capelet that Annie had loaned to Tesla was puddled on the floor by one of the columns. Tesla used her subdermal camera to take a picture of it. She did a quick count, and only Annie and Ori were missing. From the way everyone was bunched around Ewan, she was guessing that they were trying to keep the kid from thinking the worst, so she went with the safer of the two questions. Where's Annie? I do not know. Jalna's voice trembled. She was not here when I got back, and she is not... She tapped her temple in the universal reference to a HUD. It wasn't unusual for families to share their locator information with each other, even if it was only used for emergencies. Shao's voice sounded more relaxed than it should. Is it unusual for her to go offline? She nodded. It's probably just a system thing. Ewan spoke to Gimlet's belly. My dad won't even let us run HUDs because they're acid unreliable, and a ship like this is practically a Faraday cage. The ship has signal boosters for guest comfort. Jalna gave a strained smile. But they are correct. The signal in the yoga studio.
After correct, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
But they are correct.
The signal in the Yoda studio.
Here we go, same place.
But they are
Please,
correct.
you must. The signal in the yoga studio is wildly unreliable. I am sure it is nothing. 3 possibilities. Actually, let me try that again with some actual acting instead of just let me do an accent, which is what just happened there.
You got it.
But they are correct.
The signal in the yoga studio is wildly unreliable. I am sure it is nothing. 3 possibilities. It was genuinely nothing. Or Annie was a murderer and had just killed again. Or the murderer had seen Annie at karaoke and eliminated a witness. And maybe the same 3 possibilities for Ori. Tesla opened the pictures stored in her local HUD, unspooling the selection in her local drive.
Tesla, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Abilities for Ori.
Tesla opened the pictures stored in her local drive, unspooling the selection across her HUD. Under any other circumstance, she would have avoided using it in polite company, so she didn't have the vapid.
After company.
In polite company.
So she didn't have the vapid eye twitches of a network addict. But right now she wanted to see if she could zoom in on the body. A pixelated heat haze of spoofer distortion surrounded the figure on the floor. 2 other spots in the image had the blurred fog of spoofer activity. One on the Terran level near a glass divider wall, another on the Martian level at the ice cream shop, and... She blinked twice, enlarging the image. Annie is on the Martian level? In the image plastered across her HUD, Tesla could see Annie leaning over the rail on the edge of the spoofer distortion. She wasn't looking at the body, though. She had been looking straight at Tesla. She is? Jalna's brow was crinkling. How do you know that? And this was why Shal told her not to volunteer anything. Oh, well... Her mind emptied of possible lies that wouldn't create contradictions. The elevator hadn't come yet, so we... Shal waved his hand out the door of the yoga studio and left a wealth of statement implied in his ellipses. Do you want us to walk you down to her? Jalma's mouth compressed for a moment, and she turned from them to walk over to Annie's capelet, where it lay in a shock of color on the floor. The rough, raw silk shushed against wood as she scooped it up. That is not. Hey, class over already? Ori's slootmakers sauntered into the yoga studio, grinning at them all. And here I was, looking forward to corpse pose. What's wrong? Ewan looked up from petting Gimlet. Someone fell off the balcony. Oh, shit. Ori gaped, and he turned to look out the entrance of the studio toward the balcony. I was in the bathroom and... And what, Miss Mix Slootmakers?
And what?
Bathroom and...
And what, Mix Slootmakers? There was a laziness to Shal's voice when he was questioning someone. It hid the sharp acid bite of his wit. And I didn't hear a thing. I hope you're feeling better. Ori glanced over his shoulder at Shal, red blotches high on his visible cheek. What do you mean? Well, I mean, you were gone for a long time. I just hope nothing's wrong. Shal's shrug was a study in casual. His smile was gentle, as if he were sharing a secret with the other man. Yeah, thanks. I have IBS. Always happy to have that pointed out. Ori ran a hand over his scalp, then turned to his child quickly. Ewan, let's go. Can we go down to look? Absolutely not. Ori nodded to them all and walked over to bundle up their yoga mats. Let's go. Now. But Pops! Ewan. When he straightened, his face was red and sweat prickled on his scalp. Hourglass. Something changed in the kids' posture. Their face went still and they swallowed. Copy. They clambered to their feet with the awkward gangliness of a teen. Thanks for letting me pet your dog. Sure, any time. She smiled at Ewan. What the hell was going on? Maybe you and your dad can come by and have a playdate with Gimlet? The kids shrugged and moved to pick up their mat, then hurried out of the room with their father. In the silence, Maja Bean cleared her throat. I can lead any... Oh, sorry, very low voice.
Let me just check one thing. Clambered is what I'm listening to. Can we take they clambered to their feet with the awkward gangliness of a teen?
Yes.
They clambered to their feet with the awkward gangliness of a teen.
I mean, clambered is a perfectly valid word. I don't know what you're...
I know. I just something new. You can only do it in not Earth gravity, not Terran level gravity. Clampering
right,
is
right.
really.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Clambered. Where is that actually? Bottom of the previous page. Yeah, bottom of 182.
Yep.
Second little sentence. Here we go.
Copy.
They clambered to their feet with the awkward gangliness of a teen.
Now, of course, clambered is sounding wrong to my head too, but that was correct.
It's a weird word.
It is. Okay, so after Majabine cleared her throat.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Cleared her throat.
I can lead anyone who needs it through some simple meditation exercises to clear our minds. In a time of loss and distress, it is not uncommon for the mind to become unquiet. That was an accurate statement, and also the last thing that Tesla wanted to do in the moment. It felt like her brain was charged with liquid oxygen and steaming from overpressurization. She wanted to talk to Shal, not just send pings, but actually talk. "Thank you. I think I need to head back to our room to lie down." Shal nodded, and the relief in his features lay just below the skin. She tapped her left leg, and Gimlet heeled into position with her gaze fixed on Tesla. The leash was slick with sweat in her fingers. The threads bumped against her touch as they walked toward the bridge. A line of yellow tape stretched across it now, and there were uniformed crews standing at the entry to the bridge. People stood in clumps on the other side of the yellow tape and stared openly at the activity. And in the midst of the group, someone lifted what looked like a film camera and pointed it at them. Tesla turned her head away, heart rate ratcheting up. A spoofer could mask things from digital cameras, but not from film. Almost every time Tesla saw one, it belonged to someone who was going to sell a picture of her. And now this entire secluded part of the ship was suddenly an area of focus and interest. She needed to get out of here as quietly and discreetly as possible. And they were trapped on the wrong side of the bridge from the elevators. "Seriously?" Officer Pipers.
There's one word change we need to go back and get. The threads bumped beneath her touch. I think it said something different. I don't know what it was. Let me listen. We'll take it from the threads through bridge, please.
Okay.
Here we go.
In her fingers.
The threads bumped beneath her touch as they walked toward the bridge.
Thank you. And then there was a strange noise. I need Tesla turned her wait a minute. Tesla turned her head away through ratcheting up. There's just a interesting little drop-outy sound.
Okay.
Here we go.
Pointed it at them.
Tesla turned her head away, heart rate ratcheting up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Head away, heart ratcheting up. Okay. Then picking it up. Seriously.
From the elevators.
"Seriously?" Officer Piper's voice stopped her. "Why am I not surprised to find you two here?" "Maria." Shal turned to face the security officer who was crossing the bridge. "I'm not sure this is the best time for a playdate with Gimlet." "Agreed. We're a little busy." Her face was hard and her mouth tight, as if she were holding in.
Agreed. As if she were holding in. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Hard and her mouth tight.
As if she were holding in an anger of torrent.
Here we go.
Hard and her mouth tight.
As if she were holding in a torrent of anger. "Of course. Do you have someone to spare that can get us back to our cabin so we can..." Oh, let me actually just do that as Shal.
Okay. Here we go.
Torrent of anger.
"Of course. Do you have someone to spare that can get us back to our cabin so we can get out of your way?" "Negative. I need you to stay put until I can ask you some questions. We're happy to help." Shal spread his hands in an easy gesture of openness. That was all fine and good, but Tesla did not want to be here. "Absolutely, it's just... Gimlet needs to do her business." "I thought you needed to go back to your cabin." "Potty pads." Tesla shrugged and sweat beaded on her back. "I'd prefer the animal relief area, of course, but didn't want to put anyone out." Officer Piper watched her for a long moment, then switched her measuring gaze to Shal. Her lips pursed quickly. She looked past them toward the crew members guarding the area at the end of the bridge, and then down to the broad expanse of the promenade. Her shoulders shifted with a slow, measured breath, and for a moment Tesla thought she was about to let them go back to their cabin. Then her gaze snapped back to Tesla. "Why Why didn't you want Dr. Fish to treat Shal? What? Tesla glanced at Shal, wishing she were holding his hand so they could confer. He gave a slight nod. Answer direct questions honestly, but don't volunteer. She had been drinking and I didn't trust her. With a flat stare which seemed to be scanning her core components, Officer Piper waited. The urge to fill the void in conversation built in Tesla, but she'd heard Shal talk about leaving spaces for people to spill the beans. Tesla knew how to wait calmly. She imagined golden sunlight filling her from the top of her head. Soft warmth filled her toes, rolling up to her ankles. Around them, crew members with safety vests over their uniforms directed people. Nodding, Piper shot a look at Shal as if she knew exactly why Tesla didn't take that bait. She crossed her arms over her chest. What else? She held up her hand to stop Tesla. I'm going to ask you not to pretend that your reaction to Dr. Fish was proportionate. And yes, the cutting of the second, of course, was intentional because...
Okay, great. That was my next question.
Yep.
So we will leave that. Tell me when you're ready.
Got it?
Of course, was at the... Got it, okay. Here we go.
And to stop Tesla.
I'm going to ask you not to pretend that your reaction to Dr. Fish was proportionate. You did not want her treating your spouse before you realized she'd been drinking. True. Tesla wet her lips, and by her side, Gimlet pushed her head against Tesla's leg. George Saikawa was alive when Dr. Fish took her away. I had entertained the thought that she might have been involved in Saikawa's death. Maybe she was. Officer Piper stared over the railing again. We're going to hold you both for questioning. For crying out loud, we weren't... Beside her, Shal made a sudden inhalation, following Piper's gaze with his own. Plane is incoming. The wind must have changed directions. We're just getting more air traffic today.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
All right. Beside her.
Out loud, we weren't...
Beside her, Shal made a sudden inhalation, following Piper's gaze with his own. The officer turned to him, and her mouth quirked to the side. She nodded and walked away, catching the attention of a crew member. Put these two with the others. Excuse me! Righteous indignation.
After righteous indignation.
Excuse me?
Righteous indignation was never a good look, but it was hard to express anything except that. What is your reason for holding us? Over her shoulder, Piper said, Ask Shal. He gets it. She kept walking, checking in with crew members and answering questions. Tesla turned to Shal, whose mouth was turned down in a tight frown. She cleared her throat. Grimacing, he nodded at the scene around the body on the floor below them. Pretty sure that's Ruth Fish. Satan's Whiskers. 1 ounce gin, 1/2 ounce Grand Marnier, 1 ounce dry vermouth, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 1 ounce orange juice, 2 dashes orange bitters. Shake ingredients over ice for 15 seconds. Strain into coupe. Hi, did you want this personalized? Tesla smiled at the 11th person to approach her in the 15 minutes since they'd been herded into the Olympus Mons lounge on the Martian level with the other witnesses. She took the offered ship newsletter from a stylish passenger wearing an asymmetric skirt with teal...
She took... did you leave out white on purpose, or is you going to put that white asymmetric?
I did not.
Okay. Let's take it. She took.
The other witnesses.
She took the offered ship newsletter.
The other witnesses.
She took the offered ship newsletter from a stylish passenger wearing a white asymmetric skirt with teal crocheted edging and a matching capelet. To Nora, and I just wanted to say that my parent has Parkinson's and uses a mini PAMU, and having mobility again made all the difference in their life, and thank you so much. I know how much developing it cost you personally. Thanks! She jotted the name above her signature and kept her smile in place through long practice. The first person she'd tried to put off because she didn't have a pen, but a crew member had helpfully provided one. At least she could try to use the time wisely. So, where did they collect you from? Terran level. They passed just over my head. I thought it was part of the show at first, and then... I'm so sorry, that must have been horrible. Tesla shifted in her chair, trying to ease the tension in the base of her spine. And by tension, she meant pain, and by pain, she meant red webs of anger.
All right. Let's go back and get. Left the word ship out of ship crew on the previous page,
Okay.
but a ship crew member had helpfully provided one.
Thank you.
Just that phrase. Here we go.
Because she didn't have a pen.
But a ship crew member had helpfully provided one.
Thank you. Okay. And by pain, after and by pain, she meant red webs of anger.
Okay.
And by pain,
She meant red webs of anger that spread out like a spider's revenge. These had to be the solar system's worst chairs, and she had to leave the safeties in place so she knew which positions would do the least damage. She hated everyone. Tesla kneaded her fists into the tightest spot, trying not to grimace too visibly, since it felt like half the lounge was staring at her. The security team had rounded up anyone who was in the spoofer fields that Tesla had spotted. Or rather, they'd rounded up the people they could identify, but there was no telling who had slipped away before security got there. Shal slid his arm behind her and took over. You okay? For God's sake, who designed these chairs? At her feet, Gimlet whined and bumped her head against Tesla's calf. She bent down to scratch the little dog's head, bracing herself with a hand on her other knee. It helped stretch her back out some, but not enough. Still, it meant that she could plausibly deny.
We'll take it there. I thought I heard a noise. Let me listen real quick. Great. Okay. Here we go.
but not enough.
Sorry, I got distracted by reading the text live chat conversation. All right.
Here we go.
But not enough.
Still, it meant that she could plausibly delay addressing the next person in her impromptu signing line. The urge to ask for a manager was very, very strong, but would not actually do a lot of good. And she'd tried that already. The staff had set up blockers through the Olympus Mons lounge so that no one had access to the network while they were investigating. As a temporary measure, since they were clearly and obviously not preventing anyone from speaking to their legal counsel before answering questions. This was just to keep communication lines clear. The next passenger had a souvenir T-shirt in their hand and held it out. Of course, I'm happy to sign your...
Let's take it from...
Also, pro tip, if you are going to ask someone to sign a T-shirt for you, they are, in fact, a pain in the ass to sign, as Tesla will just say in a moment. Take a piece of cardboard, a cardboard insert that can go inside the T-shirt, and then pull it around to the back. If you have pins to stretch it tight, that's going to be much easier on the person signing. But at least having a flat surface that they can brace against, where they are only signing against one piece of fabric, makes it significantly... it's still a pain in the ass, but it's less painful. Maybe something you can clear up with an ointment kind of thing. All right, do you want me to begin narrating again?
I want to, yes. Let's take it from, this was just to keep that place. There was just a pause that was
Okay.
not as smooth. So just from there, and keep going, please.
Okay.
For answering questions.
This was just to keep communication lines clear. The next passenger had a souvenir T-shirt in their hand.
Here we go.
Lines clear.
The next passenger had a souvenir T-shirt in their hand and held it out. Of course, I'm happy to sign your shirt. T-shirts were a total pain in the ass to sign. What's your name? Yakim Porter, Zizir. The passenger had the remnants of a delivery tan, with pale skin around Zir mouth. I'm going to actually go back and give Yakim a southern accent, just because I can.
Okay. After what's your name? Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
What's your name?
Yakim Porter, Zizir. The passenger had the remnants of a delivery tan, with pale skin around Zir mouth and hands from wearing a courtesy mask and gloves outdoors, which meant that Z was from Earth. And where did they collect you from? I was getting ice cream at the Snow Queen. Z winced and shook Zir head. Heard the screaming and only caught a flash of color. Just found out that she jumped. She? Sorry, that's Shal.
I just found out. We'll take it from there. I just missed the I.
Okay.
Here we go.
Flash of color.
Sorry.
Flash of color.
I just found out that she jumped. She? Did you know her? Shal stood by Tesla's chair, ready to bounce anyone who was a problem, broken ribs or no. When Z shook Zir's head, Shal said, Who told you she jumped? The passenger turned. I don't see them now. They were lunar, though. White, wearing a purple shirt? Or blue? Anyway, they pointed me to her social. You haven't heard it? Shal shrugged lazily. Blockers. Plus, our honeymoon. He made it sound like it was a choice. The hand he ran across the back of Tesla's neck seemed like simple affection. See if Zir has the video on a local drive. She looked up at Yakim Porter. What did she post to social? She patted Shal's hand to imply...
One sec. Let's see. So C of Z, you said Zir. Is that a purposeful change?
No.
You said C of Z. Okay. So we'll get that. I need to check one other thing.
And of course, they are both offline. There's no need to imply that everybody in the room is offline, because I'm just going to cut that.
What are you
Everybody
cutting?
in the room
What's
is
our
offline
honeymoon?
because they put
Oh,
blockers.
Gotcha. Right. Let's do C of Z and go from there.
Okay.
Simple affection.
See if Z has the video on a local drive. She looked up at Yakim Porter. What did she post to social? I can. Z fished a hand...
After social. Here we go.
She post to social.
I can. Z fished a handheld out of Zir's pocket and unscrolled the flexible screen to full size. Here. The page had Ruth Fish's icon in the upper right and the handle Space Quack. It was a handheld video filmed point of view walking up a set of stairs on the ship. The audio was hard to hear over the crowd, and Z frowned at it. You can't hear it, but she sounds like she's crying. Do you want to borrow my... From the handheld, Ruth Fish's voice slurred. This isn't my usual walking tour of the ship. In case you're wondering, in today's game of drunk or boat, it's definitely drunk. I can't blame any of this on Coriolis effect.
Let's see here. There's a little bit of a... Listen to this and tell me if it bothers you.
Okay.
You can't hear it?
I think it's okay if you like it.
Yeah, I
okay.
think it's fine. I do.
Great. Good. But then you said on this, you said game of drunk or boat. Was that a purposeful, or is drunk or ship?
Oh, it should be drunk or boat. It's never drunk or ship.
Oh, it's
Oh, no, it is
Okay.
drunk or ship because they're in space, right? Never mind, it is drunk
Okay.
or ship.
okay. After walking tour of the ship.
Okay.
So in case you're wondering, is that a plane?
Great. That is indeed.
Practicing their dive bombing, huh?
I think so. It's how we're dealing with our squirrel population.
Just want to do crop dusting really fast.
No. I mean that we've employed the squirrels as crop dusters.
As pilots, right.
Yeah. They're just, they needed something to do.
And suddenly the dogs sound more reasonable when they say, oh, squirrel!
Squirrel, yeah, because they're dive bombing, so.
Okay, so let's take it from, in case you're wondering.
Walking tour
Okay.
of the ship.
In case you're wondering, in today's game of drunk or ship, it's definitely drunk. I can't blame any of this on Coriolis effect, just on my own. Shit. I shouldn't have... Her voice broke and sobbed loudly enough that the echoes of it were audible. The camera showed the door to the stairs opening. I'm drunk. And not drunk enough to forget what I've done. I swore to do no harm, and I killed George Saikawa. I just didn't know how to get out of this mess. Fuck. The video ended. 3 more people had come up behind her current fan, leaning over Joachim's shoulder to watch the screen. Z grimaced. The way it ends, I don't think she meant to post it. The timestamp said 11:13 p.m., which was maybe 10 minutes before she died. It would have been right around when they were leaving the yoga studio. Thank you for showing me. Tesla handed Joachim's shirt back to Zier. That's horrifying, but thank you. The next fan took Zier's place, and Tesla tried to fall back into the rhythm of innocuous activity. Had Ruth Fish killed herself? But why? Why had she killed George Saikawa? Tesla shifted in her chair. So, what about Halden's theory that Ruth and George were planning to kill him? Was that the mess that Ruth was talking about? We don't need to solve this. So you think there's more to this, too? Tesla. Just different read.
Okay. Here we go.
To this, too.
Tesla. His voice was as warm and his fingers as his fingers... It's fine.
Here we go.
Tesla.
His voice was as warm as his fingers on her neck, but she could still hear the plea to drop it. Someone tried to kill you. The pen slipped in the sweat.
The pen, here we go.
To kill you.
The pen slipped in the sweat on Tesla's palm, and she nearly lost it. Gimlet grabbed the loose coil of her leash and tugged. Why was she being such a brat? The little dog tugged again. Maybe she needed water. It was so hot in this room. Oh, Tesla's palms were sweating. She was about to have a panic attack, and Gimlet was trying to get her out of the room. The problem was that there wasn't anywhere she could go. Tesla took a slow breath. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. She couldn't leave. "Thanks so much for stopping by," she said to the fan. Tesla put a hand on the chair to brace herself as she stood. Her left leg was sluggish, and she thanked her lucky stars that they were on the Martian level, or she might not have made it all the way up. For the moment, standing was kinder on her back than the horribly scoop back butt sprung.
We'll take it from then the horribly, but I want to get one phrase before that. Can we take it from her left leg was sluggish and just keep going from there?
Absolutely.
There was just a smoothness somewhere that I wanted to smooth out further.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Self as she stood.
Her left leg was sluggish and... yes, much smoother.
Here we go.
Self as she stood.
Her left leg was sluggish, and she thanked her lucky stars that they were on the Martian level, or she might not have made it all the way up. For the moment, standing was kinder on her back than the horribly scoop-back butt-sprung chairs. The entire lounge reeked of too much effort and not enough thought. Shao leaned in to kiss her, murmuring, "Are you okay?" She nibbled the lobe of his ear. "I hate these chairs." Even with Ruth committing suicide, there was still the other body. The vid talked about George Saikawa, but nothing else. The security chief would probably see her death as confirmation of his totally unfounded theory that murderers often killed themselves. Officer Piper strode up.
Officer Piper.
Killed themselves.
Officer Piper strode up and shook her head at the scene. "Seriously? You can't wait until you get back to your room?" "Maria." Shal grinned. "Here for your playdate with Gimlet?" She rolled her eyes at him and turned to the folks, to the people.
She rolled. Here we go.
Your playdate with Gimlet?
She rolled her eyes at him and turned to the people around them. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, folks, but I'm going to have to ask you to return to your seats. We're trying to take your statements as quickly as possible, and would help us do that if you remained in the seats we assigned to you." Tesla sagged a little as people did.
Can we do it from "and it would help us"? We left out an "it," I think.
Okay.
Here we go.
As quickly as possible?
"And it would help us do that if you remain in the seats we assigned to you." Tesla sagged a little as people dispersed around them. "Thank you. I did not do it for you." Piper's face was hard as she turned back to Tesla. "And I need to ask you, and I need you to not."
And I need you. Here we go.
And back to Tesla.
"And I need you to not ask people questions while there's an active investigation going on. Is that clear?" "Yes." Tesla struggled for a moment, knowing that she should be quiet, but also there was a murderer on the ship. "Did you see the person with the analog camera?" Piper's sigh was an eloquent and scathing essay on people who asked unnecessary questions that implied that she was not doing her job. After pinning Tesla with a gaze that could be patented as a weapon, she turned it on Shao. "What?" At Tesla's side, he shifted as if suddenly too warm, but took the opening. "Just wondering if anyone had eyes on Halden Kuznetsova." Piper took too long to answer. That is an odd and very specific question. I'm an odd and very specific guy. Shal inclined his head. It occurred to me that his assistant and his college roommate are both dead. Either someone is targeting his friends, and likely him, or he is. Let me ask you a follow-up question. Can you think of a reason someone might make a list of people who were being bumped off? Sweat coated Tesla's body. The paper Bob took from her had a list of names that started with George Saikawa and Ruth Fish. A high-pitched squealing started in her left ear, and she wanted to bolt from the room. She held very still, waiting for the surge to pass through her. At her feet, Gimlet sat up and leaned her head against Tesla's leg. Piper, officer.
Let's go and get one drop-outy thing. It's taking to done this little nifty dropout sound that goes squeak.
Squeak.
So, yep.
Squeak, squeak.
Piper took too long to answer.
Squeak. Yep.
Yep.
R2D2 maybe.
Yeah, maybe R2D2. Or the German Meow, my parents' cat. He's this big tabby. He's a big boy. He's like 16. I mean, he's not Maine Coon big, but he's a hefty boy. And his meow is wee, 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 wee. It's the tiniest, most ridiculous meow in the entire world. It kind of barrels up to you and goes, wee.
That's super cute. Okay, after Halden Kuznetsova. Here we go.
Halden Kuznetsova.
Oops, sorry. Previous page.
Yep,
Yes.
sorry, I should have said that. Here we go.
Halden Kuznetsova.
Piper took too long to answer. That is a...
Got it.
Okay,
Got it.
great. So, Kendra,
Okay.
I see me and my tailbone sympathize with Tesla. Part of Tesla's experience with those chairs is based on me being on the cruise ship and having shingles and not knowing it. And so I was blaming all of my discomfort on chairs. And the rest of it is based on actual conference chairs, which are just too much effort and not enough thought.
Officer Piper looked down at the little dog. Here we go.
Against Tesla's leg.
Officer Piper looked down at the little dog. Huh. Never knew that a dog could be a tell before. There you are! Annie's voice cut through the lounge as she wove between chairs. I didn't see you earlier. There was a column between us and I was facing the wrong direction. Oh, my goodness. Isn't this just the worst thing in the world? And, oh, Jonah isn't with you. Tesla shook her head, heart still shaking her extremities. Sorry, no. They kept the yoga group up in the studio. Shal gestured to Officer Piper. We're just too attractive for Maria here to want to get rid of us. With a sigh, Annie looked out at...
Can we do we're just too attractive from there on? Here we go.
To Officer Piper.
We're just too attractive for Maria here to want to get rid of us. With a sigh, Annie looked out the entrance of the lounge as if Jalna would be standing there. They wouldn't let me go back to the yoga studio, and I'm just sick with worry about her. She's fine, and just as worried about you. Not watching Piper, Tesla asked the same question she asked everyone, even though she'd seen Annie on the Martian level. Where did they round you up from? The gift shop. Annie fluttered her hands. I'd gone to the restroom, but it was out of order, and so I went down a level, and then, oh, and I got you something. Something for me? Tesla glanced at Shal, who was rubbing his ear as he watched Annie rummage in a small shopping bag at her waist. Maybe it's silly, but ta-da! She held out a courtesy mask and goggles. The courtesy mask was like something a station resident might wear for an evening out, in a muted purple with iridescent sequins scattered across it. I thought it would help with people Excuse me. Officer Piper made a T with her hands. Time out. Did you say the bathroom on the lunar level? The one next to the yoga studio? Yes. Why? All of Piper's attention left Shal and Tesla to focus entirely on Annie. There was an out-of-order notice. Yes? Annie fluttered her eyelids as if she were bringing up photos. I thought it would be faster than walking to one at the next junction. What time? I'm not certain. Oh! She flashed her wrist key fob. But we can check the receipt. It should only be a little before then. Did you record walking down there by any chance? Annie shook her head. You're frightening me a little. Piper chewed her lower lip for a moment, and Tesla leaned forward when the officer took a breath. There was no scheduled maintenance for that bathroom. Shal's body language shifted subtly next to Tesla, and if she hadn't been watching him, she would have missed it. What had just caught his attention? Oh, Ori had also said he'd gone to the restroom.
Seat of ease.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go back and get and I'm on the previous page, and I'm just sick with worry about it. Let me just double check. We left the and out. I'm just sick right now. So, but I really loved the accent. It was really great on that.
Thank you.
And I'm just sick with worry about it. So, you see where I am? Here we go.
Yoga studio.
And I'm just sick with worry about her.
Thank you. I don't know why it makes me chuckle, but it does. So going back to where we were after... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if you wanted a nice bowl of soup. You're such a sweet young man.
Sure. Let's see. Oh, so starting with Ori had also said. Second paragraph from the bottom, third line down. Paragraph starts with Shal's body language.
Yes, got it.
Here we go.
Oh.
Ori had also said he'd gone to the restroom and was gone a long time. If it was out of order, he would have noted that as his reason for being gone so long. But Annie wouldn't... Why would she tell such an easy-to-check lie? So what I'm hoping is that you recorded the sign, or remember seeing or passing someone on the way past that restroom who can confirm that there was a sign at the time you went past it. Maybe? She looked to Tesla for support. I wasn't honestly paying attention. Officer. Tesla couldn't believe that Annie would be mixed up in this in any way. She'd been nothing but kind. On the other hand, she had a long history of assholes being kind to her who were jerks to other people. But still, if you have an accusation, make it. Otherwise, leave her alone. Oh, making accusations isn't my job. Officer Piper's voice turned bitter beneath her smile. My job is keeping order and making notes for the proper authorities. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Do you want to stop there?
Seems...
Yep.
Let's seems like that would be the place to stop, unless there's a
Yeah.
ready-made. There's dialogue at the bottom of the next page, but I feel like
Yeah, and I feel like
I don't
let's just go ahead and stop here. 5
Yeah,
minutes is not going to kill us, probably.
No.
And it's a good stopping point. All right.
Yep,
And
agreed.
I'll see you tonight
Yes.
for more in the continuing story. I'm making good progress on my blanket.
Good. We're making good progress on our book. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you all again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.